95% of our oceans have never been explored, not glanced at, not mapped, never seen by a single human eye. Down there, in total darkness, under pressure that would crush a car like a soda can, things live that shouldn't be able to exist. And the scariest part? These aren't myths, these are real. Today, we're going 3 creatures deep into the ocean's darkest zones, and by the end, you'll understand why scientists call the deep sea the last true unknown on Earth. Let's start with something that carries the word hell in its own scientific name. 600 meters down, past the point where sunlight gives up completely, there's a creature called Vampiroteuthis infernalis. Translated directly, it means vampire squid from hell. And once you see what it does, you'll understand why. It's small, about the size of a football, with skin so dark red it looks almost black in the water. Its arms are connected by a thin webbing, like a cloak, and when it opens that cloak, you see rows of spines lining the inside, glowing faintly blue. But here's the part that unsettles marine biologists the most. When a predator gets close, the vampire squid doesn't fight, and it doesn't really flee either. It turns itself inside out. The webbing flips over its own body, the spines point outward, and the creature transforms into something that looks less like an animal and more like a spiked, pulsing umbrella, glowing with cold blue light in the pitch black. It has the largest eyes relative to body size of any animal on the planet, and those eyes can shift color from blue to red depending on the light hitting them. It doesn't have ink like other squids. Instead, when threatened, it releases a cloud of sticky, glowing mucus filled with bioluminescent particles that can confuse a predator for over 10 minutes. Scientists believe this species has barely changed in over 300 million years. It survived whatever wiped out the dinosaurs. It survived every mass extinction since. It's still down there right now, in the same darkness, doing the same thing it's done since before trees existed on land. But if the vampire squid is unsettling because of what it does, our second creature is unsettling because of what it looks like. Because for over 100 years, we thought it was extinct. Meet the goblin shark. It lives between 270 meters and even below 1,000 meters in cold, black water most submarines never bother going. And its face is the reason fishermen who accidentally catch one often refuse to touch it. It has a long, flat, blade-like snout that sticks out like a sword above its mouth. Underneath that snout are rows of thin, nail-like teeth, always slightly exposed, giving it a permanent, unnatural grin. But that's not even the terrifying part. The terrifying part is what happens when it hunts. The goblin shark's jaw is not fixed to its skull the way ours is. When it senses prey nearby, using electrical sensors built into that long snout, its entire jaw shoots forward, out of its own face, extending almost to the tip of its snout in a fraction of a second, snapping shut around the prey before retracting back into place. Divers who've seen this on camera describe it as watching a mouth detach itself and lunge like a separate living thing. Its skin is a pale, almost translucent pink, because blood vessels sit close to the surface, which means when light hits it just right, it looks like it's glowing from the inside. It moves slowly. It doesn't chase. It waits in complete darkness, sensing the faint electrical pulse of a heartbeat nearby. And then it strikes in an instant most prey never see coming. Fossils of its ancestors date back over 120 million years. It's often called a living fossil, a creature that time simply forgot to change. It's still hunting down there tonight, in water so dark that even its own prey never sees it until it's already too late. And that brings us to our final creature. This one isn't fast, it isn't flashy, and that might be exactly why it's the most disturbing of all 3. Nearly 2,000 meters below the surface, in the crushing cold of the deep sea floor, there are pale, segmented creatures the size of a house cat, sometimes larger, slowly crawling across the sediment. They're called giant isopods, distant relatives of the small pill bugs you might find under a rock in your backyard, except scaled up to nightmare proportions by a phenomenon called deep-sea gigantism. Their armored shells are pale gray-white, curled like an armadillo, with rows of jointed legs underneath, and 2 large, dark compound eyes that don't blink, because they don't need to. Down there, in total darkness, sight barely matters. What makes them genuinely disturbing isn't their size, it's their patience. Giant isopods can survive without eating for over 5 years. 5 years. Completely motionless, buried slightly in the sediment, waiting. When a whale carcass or a dead fish finally sinks down to their level, they don't just eat it, they gorge on it, consuming so much food at once that some isopods have been found completely unable to move afterward, their exoskeleton stretched so tight from feeding that they physically cannot walk, trapped in place by their own hunger until the next slow crawl of digestion lets them move again. Deep sea footage has captured them in swarms, dozens at once, silently descending on a carcass in complete darkness, stripping it clean within hours, using specialized limbs to pull flesh apart with mechanical, unhurried precision. No urgency, no struggle, just patient, silent consumption in a place where nothing ever comes to help. 3 creatures, 3 real species, alive right now, somewhere beneath you, in water that's colder, darker, and heavier than almost anywhere else on Earth. We've mapped more of the surface of Mars than we've mapped our own ocean floor, which means somewhere down there, in a trench we've never sent a camera to, there could be a 4th thing, a 5th, something we haven't found yet and might never find at all. If this kept you up a little, you already understand why the deep sea is scarier than anything we could make up.